And there we go. So I think that takes it to me, guys, right? I have the first bio assignment
Bio.
this week. The Old Dirty Bastard. In the opener, you heard Shimmy Shimmy Ya, and now you're going to hear Brooklyn.
Return to the 36 Chambers, the dirty version by Old Dirty Bastard, comes in at number 598 in the 1990s on Best Ever Albums, number 66 in 1995, number 3,481 of all time. It is ODB's highest rated album on Best Ever Albums. Did not make Rolling Stone's list. And Old Dirty Bastard ranked number 1,908 of overall artist rankings on Best Ever Albums.
So this is a very difficult bio to do because your first instinct with Old Dirty Bastard is to sort of make him the clown prince, right, of the Wu-Tang Clan, which he very much is, right? But also, he died at 35 years old, most likely with schizophrenia that was not diagnosed until the end of his life, and tragedies along the way. So it's like there's going to be times during this bio that we're going to laugh, and as we should, because there's stuff that's utterly insane during this. But also, I think just with all of us having a little bit of a background working in mental health, like I don't want to make light of the fact that to some degree, while he was singular as sort of an artist in his time, a lot of his life will sort of resonate with you, of sort of the like perils of like a certain type of urban living, if that makes sense, guys. So like I kind of want to go through that. But to start, we have Old Dirty Bastard, or ODB, full name Russell Tyrone Jones, who was born November 15th, 1968. Interestingly enough, he almost lived exactly 36 years. He died 2 days ahead of his 36th birthday in 2004. He was one of the founding members of the Wu-Tang Clan, we've covered, and did release 3 different solo albums, although really 2. The third one was sort of a cash grab, I'd say would be the best way to describe it. If you want to describe ODB, I think Steve Huey from All Music describes him best. He is noted for his outrageously profane, free associative rhymes delivered with a half-rap, half-sung style. I think that's a good way to describe his singing. As I mentioned before, he was born in the Fort Greene. I didn't mention this before. I mentioned that he was born in 1968, but he was born in the Fort Greene section of Brooklyn, New York City. Not the easiest place to grow up, I'd say. He is actually cousins with both Jizza and RZA. They were his cousins, and all of them growing up shared a love of early rap music and martial arts movies. So if you want to talk about those three, those two things that make the Wu-Tang, it is the three of them that sort of brought them together. They started as Russell Jones, Robert Diggs, and Gary Grice before becoming their alter egos. And they were originally in a group called Force of the Imperial Master, which then became known as All In Together before coming together as the Wu-Tang Clan. So basically it was the three of them, and then they added 6 more members, and that is how the Wu-Tang Clan comes about. His stage name, there's 2 different reasons he picked the name. One was there was a character in a 1980 martial arts film called Old Dirty and the Bastard. And so like that was a film that he loved, so he liked that. And also, as with all things Wu-Tang, there's levels to everything, right? They said that it was also a reference to his rapping style, which Method Man famously said, there ain't no father to his style. That's why he's the Old Dirty Bastard, right? Because his style is one of a kind and belongs to no one. So he actually was one of the 2 oldest members of the Wu-Tang Clan, albeit he was certainly not old. When this album came out, he was 26 years old. So he was considered an elder statesman in the Wu-Tang Clan, but still a very young man. Both Brooklyn Zoo and Shimmy Shimmy Ya on this album were singles, and this album did get platinum status. It's kind of hard to believe because like leading up to this, Old Dirty Bastard, he was kind of known for being an interesting character, but within like the Wu-Tang Clan, he sort of was grounded a little bit as just like a guy. It wasn't really until like between this album and his second album in 1999, whose name I can't say on the air, but you could check it up right there. And he kind of during that time, that is when the persona of Old Dirty Bastard, I think a little bit cooked up, but also a mix of drugs and mental illness and just sort of trauma and a variety of things comes about. He was doing stunts, some of them planned. I mean, if you were watching MTV at this time, there's several famous incidents that came out with Old Dirty Bastard. One was he was having a biography done on him for MTV, and he took his children by limousine to the New York State Welfare Office to cash a check and receive food stamps. That was obviously negative press for him along the way there. They also found out he had not filed his taxes. So he kind of was slapped with like welfare fraud as a possibility. Interestingly enough, he still qualified for it at the time that he went there, but that was because he hadn't cashed his advance for the album. So he still, it's just kind of one of these crazy things, right? Like along the way, he helped save a 4-year-old's life in 1998 when there was a car accident and he was looking out a window and he organized a group of people to lift a Ford Mustang of the 4-year-old girl. She was hospitalized with first and second degree burns, but she did survive. And people say that Old Dirty Bastard or Russell Jones, whatever you want to go, frequently visited her kind of on the sly to check in with her as well. At the Grammy Awards in 1998, Sean Colvin won the Song of the Year for Sonny Came Home, and Old Dirty Bastard burst onto the stage in a new suit that he had bought and said that Old Dirty Bastard, that the Wu-Tang Clan should have won the best rap album instead of Puff Daddy that year. And he said, please calm down the music and everything. It's nice that I went and bought me an outfit today that costed a lot of money today. You know what I mean? Because I figured that Wu-Tang was going to win. I don't know how y'all see it, but when it comes to the children, Wu-Tang is for the children. We teach the children, you know what I mean? Puffy is good, but Wu-Tang is the best, okay? I want you all to know this is ODB, and I love y'all. Peace. So that was there. He appeared on Howard Stern the next day to discuss the incident, and this is kind of when he goes on an insane spree of being arrested for a variety of increasingly kind of insane things. As someone did mention, he really only was arrested once for something that would be considered to be assaultive or violent. That was very early in his career in 93 in an incident, a domestic incident with his girlfriend. I do not want to make light of that, but a lot of these things he's getting here, he's putting on a pair of shoes and then walking out of a store with them. He's making wild threats, like over the top threats. He's he's just getting arrested in a variety of crazy things. Another thing that was infamous was when he was on the run from the law and showed up randomly at a Wu-Tang concert the same night and somehow managed to escape from the police who were there. Like from that, he escaped from a drug treatment facility. That's why I said there is some stuff that you can't help but laugh because he was kind of a singular force. He was rounded up, by the way, when he was on the run there at a South Philadelphia McDonald's because he had a line for signing autographs, and the police just were like, what's going on? And realized, oh, he's on the run, kind of. But he's also is struggling with a variety of prescription drugs, crack cocaine, and a variety of just addictions along the way, alcohol. And also it became pretty clear due to the consistency of the arrests and what was going on that people started to put two and two together that, while at the beginning it might have been a little bit planned, there was an increasing mental instability. Like I said, toward the end of his life, there was some stuff that was collected that he might have been diagnosed in late 2003 with having schizophrenia for the first time. So that was what was there. It's kind of hard to narrow it down from there because a lot of the last 5 years, unfortunately, were kind of taken by addiction and mental illness. It was a series of false starts with him recording and getting back together. He was not super present on the Wu-Tang Clan's second album. He did have one track that belonged to him, featured on a couple others, and on their third album, The W, he was basically non-existent as a member there. But he was never he was never not a member of the group. He just kind of was considered to kind of be on hiatus. And I think I'll give the last word here to RZA, who in his book in 2009, The Tao of Wu, said, "Trust me, the man who became ODB, a son, unique, my cousin. He was a scientist and a minor prophet. People may not know this from the outrageous character he played, but ODB was a visionary. But he decayed. He lost that vision. From the time they put him in jail due to all the drugs he was doing, to the stress he went through with his family, it took away his ability to see and be visionary. And that night, he sat there and looked me in the eye and said, 'RZA, I don't understand anymore.' Now I know that right there when he said it, we lost him. 8 hours later, he was gone." So that was how RZA saw it. So yeah, ODB. There are not many people you could say are truly singular characters in pop music, but I think ODB is one of the few that truly gets to be called a singular character in what we would call pop music of all time, but certainly in the 90s and early 2000s. With that bio underway, Josh, what'd you think of this one?
Well, that was a very depressing bio. But as a fellow minor prophet, I thought this album was pretty pretty good. Your summary at the beginning of like his style really kind of nailed my thoughts on this album. It is very, I wrote down like free associative, or stream of conscious, I should say, what I wrote, and then also like very profane. So it's like this. I know you said he was like the clown of the Wu-Tang Clan in some ways, but he is really kind of like the wild card, and I feel like, not only on his verses on the Wu-Tang album, but on this, you really never know what direction he's going to go in, or even like what a song is about. And when, so it definitely kept me on my toes listening to this album. There is a lot of sex on it. There's a lot of,
but not sexy sex.
no, like
nasty sex.
Right. Yeah, that's a good
nasty
way to put it.
Well, and consequences of sex.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of the other Wu-Tang solo albums have kind of had, thematic through lines or themes, I guess, or maybe even like concepts in the case of Only Built for Cuban Links. But this is really kind of feel like in some ways like throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. You have guest verses by various Wu-Tang members as per usual on the Wu-Tang solo albums, and it was a journey. I don't know if I liked it as much as the other Wu-Tang albums. I'm not sure if it was because I just didn't take it as seriously, or I just kind of wasn't vibing with what ODB does stylistically, but I think there's still good parts throughout. I still like, RZA is still the producer on it, so you get some good samples and beats, and I appreciated the guest spots as well. But yeah, it's just I don't want to say it's like, minor Wu-Tang. It's just very different in a lot of ways, and so I'm still wrapping my head around it, as you can probably tell, but I give it a mild thumbs up. It's also kind of long. I think that was the other thing. At almost an hour, towards the end, I was getting a little worn down by it. But yeah, it's a mild thumbs up. I mean, it's worth.
It wasn't almost an hour. It was an hour and 8 minutes, Josh. So it was more than.
Oh, that's with the bonus tracks.
Yeah, I didn't listen to the bonus tracks. So,
okay.
I kept it to the original version anyway. So yeah, mild thumbs up from me.
I believe the McDonald's that he was arrested at in Philadelphia was like 3 blocks from where my brother lived when he was in dental school. So I passed by that McDonald's. I've been in that McDonald's several times. So yeah,
wow, what a random fact.
Yeah, it's just like that's the one that he got. ODB got arrested.
Not to be confused with the rock and roll McDonald's that Wesley Willis sang about in the 90s as well. So
Wesley, we should cover him. It's interesting covering this back to back with Raekwon's Only Built for Cuban Links. I I wish they could have taken the beats from this record and put Raekwon on this, because I like the beats on this album better. I was resonating with those and the samples more than the Raekwon record. And ODB's voice it wore me down, guys. It was a lot to take in. Josh, you're absolutely right. You're on your toes listening to this album. Like, where's he going to go? What's he going to say? Is he even rapping? Not really. Is he singing? Yeah, he's kind of singing there. And now he's just screaming, right? This is a very aggressive, vocal styling that he's got going on here. It reminded me of, I forget which one. It's not Bushwick Bill. It's one of the guys from what was that?
Scarface?
It's the other one. What was that band?
Ghetto Boys?
Yes. The Ghetto Boys. It was one of those guys was just like this. Everything's so aggressive and in your face, and like one of the things that I
Willie
like about.
D.
There you go. Thank you, Josh. One of the things I like in rap, and some of the rappers that I prefer have a smoother delivery. Right? It's a cool, smooth, really good flow. And ODB is none of that, right? He is aggressive. He's in your face. It sounds like he's going insane on this record, right? It sounds like the schizophrenia is happening in real time. Here the different voices, this kind of the screaming that he does, and the high pitched, and then he's crying about getting gonorrhea, and all, and it's just like, what the hell is going on here? And after a while, yeah, I agree, Josh. It's long, and it's just like that persona, that vibe overtook the beats that I was kind of getting down, because I thought they were all over the place. Shimmy Shimmy Ya's got a great beat. Baby Come On, Hip It to the Hoppa I really liked. Rawhide, Damage, all these, the Stomp, Going Down. I always thought, man, good beats and good things. But it just after a while I couldn't help but feel that ODB's flow was just started slowly ruining this record for me, and making it very hard. I listened to it twice and I was exhausted both times listening to it. And it's not an exhaustive, because sometimes you listen to a record and you're like, damn, there's so much going on here, and I got to try to figure out how I feel about it. And Scott Walker's a good example of that too. That recent Scott Walker record, you're like, what is going on here? In a much different way, much different vibe, yeah. But it's just, there's a lot happening. And whereas that, I wouldn't say that I love that record, but I was more intrigued by it. And I was like, I need to feel like, I felt like I needed to get more into that to figure out what was going on. I was getting pushed away with this by the end of it. So, yeah, and then I just felt like, damn, it's too bad Raekwon was on this, or like one of the other guys from Wu-Tang. I probably would have liked it more. But what I will say is I do appreciate ODB on a Wu-Tang record when he's in small doses. And I think I remember John saying this about Method Man when we did Tikal. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm mischaracterizing what you were saying, John, but I thought I remember you saying, like, you don't know if Method Man could carry a whole album, or you liked him in the smaller doses.
Well, I like him better as part of an ensemble. And I would probably, I haven't done my take yet, but I'd probably agree with you on like ODB in that role too.
Yeah. And Method Man, and I can see why you say that about Method Man, and I probably at the end of the day would agree with it, but I think his voice is cool. I don't get tired listening to Method Man. I got tired listening to ODB here. So beats are great. ODB, not so much. It's just, yeah, it's probably thumbs trending down, to be honest. Thumbs in the middle, thumbs trending down. It was a hard listen for me to get through from start to finish.
Yeah. Before John gives his take, I will say I like his singing voice when he's actually singing. I think he has a pretty good singing voice, but it's just
Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Yeah. But yeah, so I wanted to add that comment in.
I mean, you can't say you don't know what you're getting into from the intro, right? When you have like an off-kilter piano with him almost giving a sermon from the Mount Insanity, I'd say, along the way. It's profane in like a funny way. He's crying about getting an STD. So you kind of there's not many people that would be ballsy enough, right, to sing this, this blunt, and that's kind of like the idea you feel that you get with him, right? That there's gonna be next to nothing that's gonna be private in terms of especially anything scatological or sexual or sort of vice oriented, I would say, is there. And then the album, it hits hard with like Shimmy Shimmy Ya and Brooklyn Zoo are two legitimately good singles. I think the problem is by the time you get to around track 6 or 7, like Rawhide is funny, like random. It's a take on the Western. It's sort of like, all right, like obviously someone's been watching their Westerns along with their martial arts as well. But yeah, I'm with you, Matt. It does wear you down a little. But I think Old Dirty Bastard is much better. I kind of describe him as like there's a time and a place for him, and sometimes you know how you just like want like a real Coke every once in a while with like a pizza or something, but like you don't want, for me at least, I don't want to drink like a Coke every day, or I don't want to drink like 6 Cokes at one time, right? You know what I mean? I feel like to some degree that's a little bit like what ODB is for me. He's like better in small doses, and you really appreciate him in the smaller doses, but stretched out over 54. We talked about the Raekwon album being ambitious, right, with the length and stuff, but the Raekwon album didn't bore me because there was just a lot going on, and Raekwon's a skilled storyteller, and and that album really, it's a Raekwon album, but it's really a Raekwon and a Ghostface Killah album, so there's the variety like back and forth with them. On this one, the shocking thing is, of all the Wu-Tang solo albums we've done, I don't know if anybody got as much of an album as ODB did, like by himself, of all of them. Like to some degree, the Genius carried his a lot, but he had guests on pretty much all of his tracks. There's a lot of ODB on this, like by himself, singing, talking, free associating. I guess you'd say rapping. I would say ODB just always had that vibe to him where they're just like, here, Dirty, like grab the mic and just go, and it was just like whatever was floating around, right, in ODB's mind. And I almost feel like that's like what his albums were. It was like whatever he was doing at that time was what came in. That's why it would be like hilarious to like see him live, because it's like I don't even know, could he replicate, right, like what he's rapping at that exact time. But I can't say I recommend this album. It's a long listen at times. It is like climbing into a brain that's different than mine. I actually think this shares quite a bit in common with the experimental like rock music and stuff that we were covering in the late 70s and the early 80s, where some of it is almost like anti-music at times and as much like a thought experiment. It also shares a little bit in common with like what Frank Zappa or Captain Beefheart were doing as well, where they're as much a persona and a character as they are necessarily a musician at times, and it veers back and forth in between like music and anti-music. I also find it fascinating that RZA's kind of a genius at giving the beats to each member of the Wu-Tang Clan that fits their individual personality solo. I mean, they're spitting out all these different albums, but you have to say, while you can recognize RZA's production style, they really are faithful to like each of the 4 people we've covered. And just for those that might be coming in right now, we've covered Tikal by Method Man, we've covered Liquid Swords by GZA, we've covered Only Built for Cuban Links by Raekwon, and now we've covered Return to the 36 Chambers by ODB. We also covered the original Wu-Tang album, but that's a pretty amazing feat that he had, that he was able to generate this many beats that were this faithful to who was rapping in this short a period of time. So hats off to RZA on this one.
Remember, John, RZA didn't have any female relations at this time, so
but he didn't name this album as one of those. That was Liquid Swords
really?
and Only Built for Cuban Links. Yes, Well, I'm trying to remember the exact quote that he said.
Girl relations. It was a weird phrase.
Girl. Yeah, it was basically he was saying he wasn't having sex, but he said it in like the most like clinical way you could possibly say it. So I'll have to go back and dig up that quote because I loved it. But yeah, I'd have to say slight thumbs down on this one. But I always admire ODB, and like when he hits, like the 2 singles on this or on the Fantasy remix, or certainly like Gotcha Money later in the decade. I mean, he hits. So tip of the cap to ODB.
Also, an all-time great. album cover too.
Yes. Yeah, so a food stamp card. Potentially his real one, with a couple of things transposed over it. So yeah. And it's a perfect album cover for Old Dirty Bastard. So yeah. Okay.